Welcome to the School Photo Podcast, the show where we dive into the world of school photography, innovation, and the future of capturing school memories. With me, your host, Lee Brooker, and guests, in each episode we'll explore the latest trends, challenges, and breakthroughs in the school photo industry. With funny stories from our schools to best business practices and some new innovation to help us all. Whether you're a large multinational company, a sole photographer, or you're just passionate about the evolution of school photos, this podcast is for you. Grab a cuppa, settle in, and let's get started. This is the School Photo Podcast. Happy days.
In this episode, my dad is talking to David Lloyd, who is the boss man of Aperture Portraits. David seems to have crazy ideas like my dad. When Dad was building a portrait truck in lockdown, David was offering schools 360 tours and building his business. This is a great story of hard work and real core values. Happy days!
Welcome back to another episode of the School Photo Podcast. Today I'm joined by David Lloyd, MD of Aperture Portraits based up in the Midlands. David, thank you for coming. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I hope you're well.
Yeah, really good, thank you. Really good. Thanks for joining us. We've got been watching your journey for a long time, mate, and through socials, and obviously we've bumped into each other at a few events.
Yeah.
And I'm not too proud to say I've taken a lot of inspiration from stuff that you've done and just the ideas that I see you put out on Facebook and social media and through the business. So I'm excited for this one.
Good. Excellent. I'll try and make it as exciting as possible.
I'll just build it up there, and I'm sorry about that. So, David, take me back to the start of your journey in school photography, mate. Where did it begin? Why did it begin?
Well, I guess my journey started all the way back in September 2006. I was sort of straight out of sixth form. Sort of been studying photography for a couple of years. The girl that I was with at the time, her dad was a photographer. So literally just used to sort of go along with him to weddings and that type of stuff and learn the trade, I guess. Applied for a job as a school photographer. As you know, that time of the year, they're always looking for sort of freelancers or temporary contractors. And that was with a company called Fotek from School Portraits based down in Swindon. So yeah, initially sort of joined them, was taught in the groups, traditional groups. So that was our role, I guess, at the top.
Was that still on film then? Were you still on film?
No, they'd just gone
digital.
I think it was the previous year, maybe they'd just gone.
Okay.
Which is pretty good because I've never looked at film. So that's the type of photographer I am.
Yeah, when I started, I must have started 2 years before you, very similar start to that journey that I went for a job, but without the qualifications. We were using Mamiya 120 film cameras at the time. And I'd never picked one up, mate. Honestly, it was a nightmare. Like dropping it, fumbling it. It was all sorts of nightmare. But yeah, you come in as digital was coming in.
Yeah, so yeah, digital was in. And as I say, we'd done the training, the week's training that you mentioned on the last podcast, I think it was with Ian. And it was great. Like we went into schools around the West Midlands and obviously I just did tutor group photographs for high schools, mainly 10-week period. And then you got to that end and then they offered you a full-time job or not. So I was lucky and they kept me. And then sort of over the following sort of 5 years, I guess, I learned everything about the business. I learned everything about the business in regards to photography and sort of worked my way up into portraits, prom photography, and then sort of nursery photography is where it led to.
Were you doing proms through the business or were you doing it privately?
No, through the business, through Fotek at the time. So proms had sort of just started coming in maybe two years into the business, working with them. And it was very much an unknown. There was no printing on the day. It was all done online and that type of stuff.
That was pre-mobile phones as well at that point, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like they weren't all turning up with an iPhone 15 and ready to go.
Yeah, pretty much. But I enjoyed it, to be fair. I really enjoyed my time with Fotek. Travelled all around the country, really, up to Scotland, down to Cornwall, and this and the other, and it was fantastic. Really enjoyed it. And then one morning in January in 2012, we get a phone call out the blue saying that they'd gone into liquidation. So, which was a bit of a kick in the teeth, really, because we not long the year before brought our first house, and myself and my now wife. So, yeah, it was a difficult situation, really. But
You didn't see, you didn't know, didn't have any idea.
No, no. So we just had a really good year as the business, or I guess the business had, and yeah, it just come out of the blue, really. But when I've thought about it over the years since, we could sort of see the demise of Fotek by them focusing on day nurseries more than schools. So I remember there was one year we lost about 800 schools, but they'd booked like 1,600 day nurseries. So they thought that actually we're better off when they really wasn't, because the head count is, yeah, we all know it's not there.
Yeah.
So yeah, so while I worked for Fotek, I've become like good friends with the sales guy in the West Midlands. So it was good because obviously he'd go out and book schools and I'd go and do it along with the other guys in the Midlands. And it worked really well. We built up a really good relationships. Once sort of the January 2012 rolled round and we got made redundant, there's not a lot of work around that time of the year. So what do you do? And
Okay, didn't you?
yeah, that's literally where we started. We met up the same day. We had a conversation, and we was like, why don't we just try it ourselves? We've got two key components, which is the sales and the photographer. The rest of the stuff, the business, we can learn later. And that's pretty much what we did. Aperture was born in 2012, and what really springboarded Aperture was knowing that Fotek had gone before anybody else. So when it happened in the January, obviously there's no school photos really till the summer, so competitors wouldn't find out. So actually for us, in the space of 2 weeks, we went and booked 60 Fotek schools around the West Midlands.
There's no non-compete left in that situation either, is there? All
No.
contracts are null and void at that point, aren't they?
Yeah. So it was fantastic. So basically we just went in, we used the old Fotek packs. So we literally just went to a lab and we said, right, this is what we want to offer. And we went and spoke to all the schools and said, look, unfortunately,
us.
but we're here to sort of save the day type of thing. And yeah,
See us in the summer.
Yeah, that's pretty much where we started. It was a really good springboard.
Yeah. And that as a early intro in through the summer is enough for you to see that little bit down the road that actually we've got something we can hang on to here is worth fighting through the February, March, April.
Yeah.
Because you know the history of it, and you know that it'll come through in the summer term and then definitely in autumn.
Yeah, well, I mean, at that point, obviously, it was out the blue. And as I said, I mean, I didn't have a lot of savings at that point because I just purchased a house. So what we did do is sort of take our bookings to a lab and said, look, if we come and use you, can we have an advance on our work, and you pay us a salary for the next sort of 6 months while we get going and the business is building. But what we can do is guarantee you this work coming in.
Like it.
So we sort of struck up a little bit of a deal with the lab and they went for it, and we worked with them for a while, obviously repaid what we'd taken from them with the work that we'd done. And that sort of, as I say, got us up and running and got us through the first 12 months of the business before we'd grown it to 100 schools, I guess, by the end of the first year.
That's brilliant growth. That is a excellent initial story and initial way to get it going, isn't it?
Yeah. We're not smart, or I'm not smart. I'm just happy to be in the. I'm just in the right area at the right time, I guess, and take the opportunities.
Well, I think that last bit, that last bit you say there exactly of taking the opportunities is a big bit that a lot of people won't do.
Yeah,
and they'll go the safe route. They'll go and get a job. They'll go and try something. Did you have kids at the time when this first happened?
No, we hadn't. So, but
an understanding new wife.
Yeah, new wife, new house. Do you know what I mean? So we were just starting off in life. I was 22. So again, had to grow up very quickly because then obviously with 100 schools by the end of the year, we had people that we had to then employ.
Very much so, yeah.
So they was then reliant upon us. So growing up and sort of learning business, learning HR and everything else that goes along with it.
Do you remember the feeling around your first employee? Do you remember how that was leading up to it?
exciting, but in the back of my mind, you've always got the fact that you've got to pay, this person's got a mortgage to pay, you've got to pay their wage. So in the leaner times, how are you going to afford that? How are you going to do it? So exciting, but nervous at the same time, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. My first employee was a sales guy. Was Martin, our sales guy, and that was just under 2 years into the business. And obviously, good salespeople don't come cheap. But I remember exactly the same feeling. I was like, the only way for us to grow is to get someone great at doing it. When
Yeah.
I set up initially, I didn't have the partner that was that person that was able to go and do that. So I try and speak to a lot of people about that first employee, because when we speak to one-man bands and people that have not maybe gone on the journey yet, that a big thing they say is, well, I'm worried about employing people. It's a 30 grand problem. It's a 30 grand risk. How can I risk X amount of money? But maybe without seeing the longevity. So what was your first employee?
So our first employee was an admin lady. So the reason we needed that is because I was out photographing and we had a couple of other photographers with us doing freelance work. And then my business partner at the time, he was sales, so he was out on the road. So it was quite important that we had somebody there to answer the phone, chase stuff from schools like data and that type of stuff in order for the shoots to go ahead. So it was important for us. And then sort of swiftly after she'd been bedded in, we then went and got another salesperson. So as the business was growing, my business partner was sort of taken off the road, I guess, a little bit to run the business, but we needed somebody to keep replenishing and bringing in new schools. So that's what we did. And over the years, we've had some really good salespeople come and help us sort of grow to the business that we are today.
Yeah. And so do you find have you changed the way that you structure the payments on salespeople? Because in a previous role I had, there was all a handful of different ways that they were paid. Some would be paid large, basic, and a bit of commission. Some were commission only. We had people coming in and asking for that side of things, saying that I back myself. Have you found a way that works? Is there a sweet spot?
Well, back when we first started the business, we sort of had a low wage, maybe 17 to 18,000 roughly, plus then commission on top. So we would sort of break it down. Maybe, I'm just trying to think off the top of my head now, I think it was about £100 for a school and maybe £50 for a day nursery, but it had to be over a certain amount of heads. And then stuff like invoicing schools, so for like wall art or that type of invoicing, we would then say, well, we'll give you 10% of the invoice cost. So
Okay.
it was always down to them to obviously try and push for as much as they could, because then if they're commission driven or money driven, then they can earn what they wish then.
Well, I think that's really important in that role, isn't it? There's got to be a bit of security there for them, particularly if they've got kids, mortgage, etc. But by the same token, having that goal, having that tangible amount of money that they can earn, and knowing if I do this, I get that, works really well. It doesn't work necessarily so well for photographers. I spoke to people in the past talking about paying photographers a bonus based on their sales at the school.
Yeah.
Then the big thing that comes off the back of that is, well, if you go to a school that's got great sales naturally, not necessarily because the photographs are any different to a school that's in maybe a more deprived area, or maybe the school don't support selling the pictures as well. There's so many variables that aren't just based around how good was the photographer on the day.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a model that we use. We just expect that our photographers are going to go in and do the very best that they can.
And I absolutely agree with that. 100% agree with that. I think, get them trained well, get them supported well, and make sure that everybody's got the best tools that they can have to do the job. It takes away most of the excuses, I think, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, we are different. I mean, you may say different to that, but we take on photographers, and they don't necessarily have to be experienced photographers, like school photographers. So what we do is we provide all of the equipment for all of our photographers. And the reason we do that is it creates consistency within the business when images are coming in. So what we found certainly in the early parts of the business, photographers, we would go and get photographers to come in. We'd do a week's training with them, expectations of the business. This is what we want to achieve. They would have their own kit, and we would get different things coming in, different colors.
Color balance.
Yeah.
Props. Yep.
So we sort of took a calculated decision probably about 6-7 years ago, something like that, to actually go out and invest in kit for everybody. And that paid dividends overnight. It cost us maybe £2,500-3,000 for New Year.
Yeah, it's fine. Can you get it? It's another booking coming in.
It cost us about £3,000 for a kit, a full kit. So camera, lighting, backgrounds, everything they need. But what it does do is everybody is producing the same thing for us.
Yeah, we do exactly the same. Exactly the same. I mean, I think we're probably, how many photographers are you got? How many schools and photographers are you at?
So in the autumn term just gone, we were up to 10 photographers, and then that's plus myself.
Okay.
So
And
unfortunately,
then how many schools is that servicing?
we will work with about 400 schools,
Okay.
mainly across the West Midlands. We've got others dotted around in different places of sort of small acquisitions that we've done with other businesses. So yeah, roughly it equates to about 150,000 heads, I guess, a year. And we're always pushing to grow. We're quite lucky. We've got a couple of salespeople that go out on the road for us now. And then we've got a really good sort of business manager that runs our admin and our office side. But in the quiet times, she goes out on the road, and she's a guarantee of 10 to 15 schools a year from her as well.
Nice. And I get to spend time in the schools and talking to people and finding out a bit about what's the other side of the phone as well, doesn't it, I guess?
Yeah, well, it's all about account management in this game. So we make sure that we visit all of our schools twice a year just to deliver business updates to them. So that could be a new pack or a new background offering or a new service that we've got. So one thing we mentioned before we started today was COVID. So in COVID, everybody's scratching around to try and earn a little bit of money. What do? We can't get into schools. So I'm lucky that I'm a chair of governors of a primary school and a secondary school.
I'm a chair of governors as well.
Yeah. I
what
think
are we
most
doing?
photographers are.
All involved, yeah.
Yeah. So those two schools reached out to me during COVID and said, look, is there anything that you guys can do to showcase our school? Because we can't get people to come in and show them around. And that's where School Virtual Tours was born. So virtual tours that we do or did slightly different to what schools have done. So schools did video virtual tours. We did static, where we would go in, we would photograph 360 degree, every room, every corridor, and then put together a virtual tour like your Google Street, stuff like that. So actually during COVID, we went and done that for about 75 schools.
Okay.
So it was fantastic. We got out there, we could go and visit our schools, go round them. It also led then to bringing more schools on during COVID because they wanted the same thing.
And that bit done. Yeah, once you get through that reception door and you get behind the door and you get a cup of tea and have a chat with people, there is so much to be pulled from being inside that building, isn't there?
Yeah.
I never realised how close, and I mean, your journey's further down the road, but I never realised how close to our journeys had been on this whole thing. So we did a similar thing with I'd got a 360 camera and set up on Google Street View, and I was tagging their schools on their Google Maps on Google Street View. We didn't do as many. And we also did a thing with Leavers videos where we created a website, got them to go online. Parents uploaded their video of their kids saying, I wish I'll see you again, I miss you. And we just composed it together and just sold it back. Everyone who did it paid a £5. I wish we'd have done more virtual tours. Now what you said there makes complete sense. We didn't necessarily see that at the time. We was too busy building a portrait truck and messing around with other stuff. But yeah, have you carried on doing videos for schools? Have they, as in the 360s or more video work?
Yeah, so we still do the virtual tours for schools. The difference is now, so back then we would be charging schools because at that point there was no idea of when we would be able to go back into schools and start photographing to earn money. So we would put a markup of maybe £1,500 on a virtual tour, which was fantastic. We'd go in, it'd take us about a day to capture a school, depending upon the size, and then a day to put it together. So there was 3 of us going out doing those, myself included, and it was fantastic. As time's gone on, we sort of now talk about helping schools get bums on seats. So every child, as a governor, as you know, is worth an amount of money to a school. And
So you're right.
if they don't have a full nursery or a full reception, then the lifespan of that empty seat across the whole school journey can be into the tens of thousands of pounds. So by offering a virtual tour, it showcases the school's facilities to the community that sometimes they may not know what they've got or all
They
the
only
good.
see it from the street. And it allows you to help share that school's core values and the people that are behind the walls as well, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We've found with our videos that they get real engagement when you've got kids talking on camera about the school, and you've got the head teacher explaining as if they would if you were going in with your kids and they were going to walk you around and say, listen, this is what's really important to us, and we've got a fantastic SEN section, and we've got EYFS have got all of this provision, all this outside space that is out the back of the school that nobody else would ever know by going on Facebook.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. And I mean, back in COVID times, literally all we could do is go in and capture the school. We did used to film like a head teacher or a deputy on a green screen and then put them into the virtual tour. So when you go into a reception or outside the school, you drop in and then the head teacher is there welcoming the person into the tour.
Yeah, love it.
So it just gives that personal approach. We quickly sort of latched on to people like a child's voice as well. So that meant my daughter doing voiceovers
Got
for
a job
different schools, which was great because all we could pay her in was Haribo's.
Haribo's in Time in the Garden. Get out.
Yeah, it was. But yeah, so we still offer them now. We've got different options. So obviously schools can still pay for them. That's no problem at all. Or we do offer them as a bit of an incentive. If schools sign up to us for so many years worth of individual portraits, then they can have a free virtual tour.
It makes complete sense. It makes complete sense to use the tools that we've all got to bolster the offering that we're putting out there, doesn't it? I mean, that we spoke about it a little bit at the conference, didn't we? That being able to promote our own benefits rather than whoever they're using what might be negative against that has got to be the way forward.
Yeah, and it's about standing out, the offering. What do you do different? What do schools want? Because when we go into a school, we don't leave a pack of photographs because they've probably got a drawer full of photographs anyway.
Yeah.
So I've always been of the mindset that we need to stand out for whatever we do. We need to stand out because if we stand out, we've got more chance of winning business. Certainly the virtual tours was a massive part of that. Still is, although there's other providers in the market now, which is absolutely fine. Because what that then does, when people start to do your idea, it then spurs you on to create something different.
100% with you. Absolutely agree.
So you've got the same thing with the portrait truck and the spring portraits.
Yeah, the desktop portraits here that we're doing at the moment. So if everyone does it, I mean, we can only service a certain number of schools as it goes. We're going to continue to grow. You know, we're probably half the size schools wise of you at the moment. We've got 7 photographers, just taking on some more freelancers, but I try and put more photographers on a job than necessarily we need to. Just during these early days of when people are only a year, a couple of years into it.
Yeah.
So that everyone feels supported and everyone, should there be an issue, we can cover it. And for the sake of 150, 200 quid a day, we know the numbers that come in from a good school. Having that other body on site and making the whole day run more efficiently, we keep saying about how it makes so much more sense for us to retain business than it does to book new business. It costs us a lot less. We continue to build up that rapport. We get referrals from schools that have used us for year on year. But for me to put 2 photographers on a job and it be done by lunchtime without rushing, as opposed to school getting stressed out at 2:45 because they haven't even started siblings yet, yes, we can get through it. You know, you and I probably could get through it because we've done it for years and you just roll your sleeves up and get on with it. But putting someone that's a year and a half into the business in that situation, for me, I don't want to go down that road.
Yeah.
And it's also that becomes noticeable to the school if you've got stressed photographers and all the other stuff that's going through. We've all worked with them people. We've all probably employed some of them over the years, and it just doesn't work. The
Yeah.
negative is far outweighs that. So yes, they're coming up with new ideas and different ways to do things. I've seen on your social media about your golden ticket thing. I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when I introduced that and started pushing it out on my social media, there was a few sort of backlashes, but taking the mick out of David Wonka.
David Wonka.
Yes.
Was it really?
There was different words. It wasn't Wonka. I'm sure you can lead your imagination to the right words. From my friends, the schools have received it and it's been fantastic.
Yes.
And I guess when we launched that in 2022, smack bang at the start of the credit crisis in the UK and stuff like that, which made me reflect back on the whole reason we started Aperture in the first place. And that was to provide something, a pack, for everybody's budget. Because what school photos are a moment in time of a memory that can't ever be recreated again. Child's time in education is very short, and every single parent should have school photos of their child to look back on in 10, 20, 30 years, whatever. I recall when I was young and we used to go to my grandma and granddad's and they used to get this suitcase full of photographs out the loft and we'd be sitting there looking at pictures of my mum and dad and so...
Brilliant.
So that to me said that we need to try and do something. Now we've obviously got overheads as a business. We can't have a £5 pack because that's just a race to the bottom. So we introduced our golden ticket, and what that enables is a parent or a family to have a free pack of photographs. And it's not a pack of 10 by 8, for instance. It's a best-selling pack, which is our B pack. You get maybe 18 photographs in this pack and stuff like that. They're mounted. It looks really nice. But it's something for that parent that they can put it up on their wall or on their sideboard, whatever they do. They can give it out to their family. More important thing is they choose, so they can either have their individuals or they can have the family photo. It's entirely up to them. And what that does is it just enables us to have some good publicity, that we're not always there just to take the parents' money and run. We're there to give back to the community. And as of today, we've given out 890 something golden tickets, which has saved roughly about £23,000 worth of parent money, I guess.
Yeah. But the benefit to the business and the feel good to you as the owner of the business, we say it quite often, it's not all about every pound we can nick. You know, there is a bigger, massive pun, bigger picture in that being able to offer stuff back to families that might be less fortunate than us through whatever circumstance actually is something that is priceless long term, I think. Because with the greatest respect, over the 12, 15 years that you've been running, that 20 odd grand would have got swallowed up with something. It would have gone on something far less valuable than knowing that you've got best part of 900 families out there that have got a picture that they wouldn't normally have had.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess schools target the golden ticket winners. Those are the type of people that probably wouldn't buy photographs anyway, for whatever reason. So it's just nice to actually give back to the community. And now,
do the school choose who that goes to? Do the school decide which family they think they want to give it to?
Yeah. And now it's great because my sales manager, she come to me at the end of January and she said, why are we not shouting about this? Why are we not telling schools about what we're doing? Other than obviously when we go in, we're talking about, oh yeah, we give you a golden ticket and this is what it does. Why are we not talking about the impact of that?
Yeah. Yeah,
so,
right.
As you've
You're absolutely right.
seen over the last couple of weeks on my LinkedIn page and Facebook and stuff like that, we're posting out there now the figures of what we're giving out. When you do take a second to just have a look back at that, you think, geez, that's some good going, that is. And
It really is, yeah.
Makes us feel good, or certainly makes me feel good, that actually we've done that amount of golden tickets, give that amount of packs away free. And actually it's probably caused a lot of happiness.
Yeah, 100%.
A lot of
100%
families
will have done that. Yeah, because it's those little things. It's those little things, and we can all probably recollect on something that a business has done that they didn't necessarily need to do, that really resonates. We went Pizza Express the other day, 100 quid for 5 of us at Pizza Express was ridiculous. But the waitress was outstanding. She was crouching at the table, talking to my daughters before she even acknowledged me and my wife. She was just like, oh, what's your names? What do you do? And just that little bit of service resulted in us giving her more of a tip than we ever would have done before. And I'm sure she knows that, but actually she was genuine and authentic with that attention to the girls and chatting to them and everything else. And I looked at my wife, I was like, yeah, she's good.
Yeah.
And you mentioned a little while ago about not recruiting photographers that are always fully trained photographers or experienced, because you take someone on that is an experienced school photographer that's been in the game for 15 years as a freelancer, there's a good chance that they're scorned by it a little bit somewhere, and they've got their ways of doing it, and it's always been this way, and I'm never respected, and I don't want to do families after school, and blah, blah, blah. But actually, if you get someone with the right attitudes and that understands, I think we've got quite a few very, very closely shared beliefs in this situation, that understands the reason and the why. And actually, you've got a kid come in that might be on the SEN spectrum somewhere, learner support assistant comes in and says, look, I'm really sorry, it's going to be difficult. He's never had a picture done. For me, that's where we get huge, huge wins, because no problem. Let's sit and talk to him. Let's give him a camera to play with. Let's press a button. Let's spend some time with that kid to actually make them feel special and feel valued, rather than being the disruptor that he is across the rest of the day.
Yeah.
You've probably had similar emails from parents that of those children that they've gone home and said, oh, I pressed a button on the photographer's camera, I made his light go, and it goes into their book that goes home. That costs us nothing. It costs us nothing to create that little bit of positive feeling. And I tell all of our photographers, when we've finished taking their pictures, make a big deal of it. It was brilliant. It was fantastic. Great job. Really well done. Particularly on the children that we look at, and we all look at the children and know the ones that might necessarily always not get that praise.
Yeah.
We can do that. We haven't got to teach them. We haven't got to educate them. We haven't got all the burden that comes with trying to police that we probably see as behind the scenes in schools.
Yeah. I mean, I spend a lot of time looking at our business, looking at the photographers that we've got and our approach to working with schools. And that sort of led me to surmise that people remember 2 stages of a photography day: how it's going in the middle and how you finish the day. So if you're stressed and you're working up till 3:10 or 3:30, they're going to remember that. If you were doing the same thing, but are laid back, smiling, telling them that what a great day, is there anything else you can do for them, they're going to remember that your photographer was helpful on that day and they couldn't do enough. And that's the 2 things that I've sort of taken away from our business in the autumn term last year. And sort of when we come round to our training this year, that's what I shall be installing into all of our photographers. Going back to what you were saying a few minutes ago with regards to photographers, we tend to look for professional photographers all the way down to people coming out of college, because what we want them to do is forget everything that they know and learn the Aperture way. So the Aperture way is the key to creating consistency in the business. And I always bang on about this word consistency, because if you've got two children in a school and they both go to different photographers, then the parent wants exactly the same from each of those photographers. And I'll tell you now, we have photographers in there that are professionals, wedding photographers or portrait photographers, whatever. And we have people come out of college. Both of those types of people come to our training and they're taught the Aperture way, and they both produce the same thing in schools. for us. That's all we want them to do, produce
Yeah.
what we want. And for me, that works. We don't have any photographers that have worked for any of the school photography companies in the past for no reason other than
That's
they
where it
just
is.
landed on our lap type of thing. We have had them in the past. However, for us, more of a, I want to mold this person into what we want, which is the Aperture way, and we can help you do that, and we will support you on that journey. We've got a
Yeah,
good team
love
of school photographers that sort of bring in new photographers and train them and work with them. Buddy up, I guess, is the word. Actually, they're able to depart their experience and knowledge of working in our schools into these new people, which then breed another sort of circle of people that can then bring on new people.
It becomes organic. The growth becomes organic. It does mean then that if you do go down the acquisitions route and you do that sort of thing, you've got a core team of people that understand your values, and they can then spread that out amongst new starters and people that might have been under a different banner as well.
Yeah. One thing that I was sort of talking about with regards to the experience of the schools, and I guess this is my solutions hat on now of a business, and hopefully this may help other people because it certainly helped us in the autumn term last year. We spoke to a lot of our schools probably this time last year and said, what's your pinch points? What's your problems? What's causing a chaotic day? 9 out of 10 schools said it's the siblings in schools, running around, kids everywhere, blah, 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 blah. So we went away and we sort of looked and worked on models of how can we do this better? We then looked at the sales and actually found that probably on average, you'd photograph 100% of siblings in a school, but you might only get 50% sales, or sometimes less, sometimes more.
Yeah, on a good one. Yeah.
So we then went back to our schools and said, why don't you invite your school siblings and your preschoolers, whatever, before school? We'll come earlier. We'll photograph between 8 and 8:30. So that's what time we invite for you to invite them in. At 8:30, you close the door. That gives us 30 minutes then to get everybody done that's there and get them out of the way. So we implemented that on quite a lot of our primary schools in the autumn term last year. And talking to the schools this year about what we did and changes that we made with them, everyone said it was the best year of photography. Because
100% agree with that.
It wasn't chaotic, it wasn't chaos, it was just straightforward. And everybody's workflow is different. We use key cards, we're not tethered. So it was that, how do we get around matching images up to individuals? And you work through it. But my advice to anybody that's listening that wants some advice, if you can move your sibling images to before school, it just makes the whole day better. And then it goes back to what I said at the start. People remember what happens in the middle of the day and at the end of the day.
They also remember your suggested solution to that they wouldn't necessarily have thought about. So we found that schools stopped inviting preschool siblings in before school after COVID, because previously it was always mums and buggies and absolute carnage, and it was stress, and someone got stressed about it. So they sort of went down the road of going, actually, if we don't have mums and babies in, that's easier. Until you've got a 750-year-old primary school split across 2 buildings, and you've got one lady or 3 ladies from the office trying to gather them siblings. We found exactly the same thing with you as what you say there, that we do all of that effort for the siblings, and so few in comparison actually spend the money and buy it.
Yeah. And
whereas they'll always complain if you don't.
Yeah. With our sales, when the kids are invited in and it's down to the parents to bring them in, we saw the sales go up to 96% of purchase. Because
the number of siblings dropped to 30% that you probably took.
Yeah, because people that want to buy them bring them in. That's massive for us and a massive time saver. And it's the experience of the school, the experience that the school has using Aperture, which is my number one priority. That needs to be as positive as possible.
I try and tell everyone to make sure that they spend time in the staff room. Go and get a drink. Spend time in the staff. Everyone's got branded T-shirts. They've got a photographer on the back. So when they're making a cup of tea, everyone knows who they are. And just spend that 15 minutes in the staff room, just speaking, making friends, chatting about the weekend, getting involved in the conversation in the staff room. Because you're absolutely right. It's the feeling that we leave the school with. It's not even so much about the quality of the photographs as to how they feel at the end of it. Obviously, if they get no complaints, they're not going to phone us and go, we didn't have a single complaint. But if they get 3 or 4, straight away it's a problem to the lady in the office at that point. But if the experience has been good and the experience has been positive and the photographer wasn't stressed and they weren't panicking and causing the office lady problem. We had a lady that said to me last term, in autumn term, sorry, she said, I didn't sleep last night. I was like, well, why was that? She said, I was just so worried about, I'd made a decision to change photographers, and last year was an absolute nightmare. I was just so worried about how it was going to go. I was like, okay, please don't lose sleep over school photos. That's not a thing.
Yeah.
But it's not until you can show them, it's not until you can spend time with them and explain and let them see it for themselves and go, that was better. Do you do multiple poses in autumn term?
Yes, so historically we always done 2. A couple of years ago we increased up to 3. So we tend to do head and shoulders and arms folded onto the table in front was our sort of historic poses. A couple of years ago we introduced a tilted shot. Not a massive fan of it, if I'm honest with you, but what we were trying to do is bring some variance in for parents. Can't get my words out. So yeah, bring some variants in for parents. And what we did find over sort of that year and last year, our biggest selling pack was our 3-pose digital download, which was,
Did you price that at a value that makes it? So we had the angled pose, which was sort of zoomed in at an angle, which I don't know where it came from, but we did it for a few years. I think I know exactly where it came from. Sorry. So what happened is we was looking and going, how do we stop the child moving? So once the child's in position, how do we then get 3 shots? So we went from portrait to an angle to a landscape with them slightly off center. And that angle was just the natural twist and zoom, And that was fine when we had maybe 60, 70 schools and stuff. But once we started getting more of the schools, there was more parents that were viewing it and more people to have an opinion on it. And I think as soon as you get something that is divisive, someone might love it or hate it. For us in this industry, that's never great.
Yeah.
We kind of want something that is fairly vanilla, but great quality. So we actually dropped the angled pose and replaced it with either an arms folded, hands on hips or hands in pockets.
Yeah.
And we checked with the school beforehand, because some schools are no hands in pockets, as they still are.
Yeah.
We got a roller banner that had all 3 poses, and it showed the children first 2, and they then said, you choose this one. And part of our then conversation with the class before we started was, here's what we're going to do. You choose your 3rd pose, and they're all getting ready in the line then. So you've then actually got a little bit of movement. The children are in the line, they're getting there. I'm going to do my arms folded, I'm going to have my hands in my pockets. So our bestseller is exactly the same as what you said, the 3-pose digital download. But what we've done with pricing wise is we've priced it that it's the same price as 2 individual downloads.
Yeah.
To try to get that psychology in of going, actually, well, if I were to buy both of them, I'm better off doing all 3 because it's the same price.
Yeah.
By far the biggest seller.
Yeah. Yeah. We've done ours slightly differently. So our 1 digital is around 18 quid roughly, but our 3 digitals are like 30 quid. So actually drops it down quite significantly. And again, what we want parents to purchase them. So we allow them to mix and match that over different children as well, should they want to. Because why wouldn't we?
Yeah, 100% agree with that. Absolutely agree with it. And that's for us as a business, that is where the most amount of profit is in the digital downloads. There's not anything that goes off the back of that. I'm looking at partnering with a company that provides canvases. We don't bring canvases, but partnering with a company that provides canvases. And when the invoice goes out to the parent, it'll be a 10% discount, perceived discount, off of a canvas if they utilize the Happy Days code.
Yeah.
So we kind of, rather than us necessarily facilitating that, we can offer that as a service, but we outsource it and support another local business at the same time as doing it.
Yeah, I think selling is quite big. Do you know, like we partner with a company called Dunn's Imaging, so they do all of our printing. They've got their own sort of website called Flex Schools, which is similar to your likes of Got Photo and NetLife and that type of stuff, that type of sales platform. So I spoke to the guys there and I was like, look, I want to try and upsell. So people that have photo packs. We want to be able to have a little bit of an Amazon style thing. So whereas, people that have brought this pack have also brought this.
Yeah, makes sense.
So we do a lot with digital images. So people that have brought this portrait pack, they've also brought this digital, and we can do this today for 70% off. So what it does do, just gets an extra £5 or £7 on top of the pack that they've got. And you only need a few of those for it to then start ramping up a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's all pure money when it comes to digital downloads. And for us as a business, like any business, it's important to maximize the sale potential.
And I think the thing that, circling right the way back, you wouldn't be able to give away 20 odd grand's worth of golden ticket items if there wasn't the profitability in the other business, in the other section of the business that is still delivering great value to the parents.
Yeah.
I speak about it all the time of trying to find ways that you can find win-wins. I mean, the whole purpose of this podcast came off the school photography show, and I was saying, actually, we can talk about stuff. We can share ideas. Graphically, sometimes people might tread on toes. That's going to happen. But being able to share ideas and say, actually, this has worked really well for me in the past, desktop portrait stuff, at a time historically when we've got no income coming in, for us to return maybe 50 to 60% of the income that we would get in autumn term during the spring term, although we're not doing as much work and it's a slightly different thing, but that plugs a massive, massive hole.
Yeah.
And for us to be able to work with our schools to have a reason for us to come in and do that, is that we'll offer the schools the digital versions of them, and then they can use them pictures of them sitting at a desk, hand under their chin, holding the pen, pretending to sign their big contract or however we sell it and play it at the time.
Yeah.
The parents love it. The children love it. It's something different. It gives, and if the whole industry could get to that point of doing 3 visits a year, surely we all win, don't we?
Of course, yeah. I mean, it's something that we've spoken about a couple of times in the past, and it's something that certainly interests me. To try and sort of get off the ground, I guess. We haven't yet. We just still do the sort of 2 visits, standard stuff. But going back to what you were saying earlier about talking to each other a little bit more, it can be quite lonely as a business owner. Certainly in the earlier days, there was only myself, really. I was the one that had to come up with all the ideas and stuff like that. And then a couple of years into the business, like my business partner had enough. So he was sort of off doing other stuff, not in the industry anymore. And what sort of stood me in good stead and helped me grow Aperture to the point where we are today, is I sort of partnered with 2 guys who had been in and around the school industry or sort of printing industry for many years. Got experience with working with school photographers and that type of stuff. And actually sort of their mentorship and their sort of strategic view of business generally helped me sort of form ideas of, well, if we do this, it can lead to that, and employing people and all that type of stuff. It works, and that comes through talking and collaboration with people. And okay, we still talk now and very much still part of the business and the strategic view of it. But being able to talk to, like me and you talk, we don't necessarily talk about backgrounds, choices, but we could talk about ideas and stuff like that. And I think as a business owner, anybody listening who is maybe a one-man band or something like that, that's what I would say. Just find somebody. They don't have to be local. It could be the other end of the country if you don't feel that you want to talk to a potential competitor. But it's always good to share ideas like these podcasts.
Yeah,
the first couple that I've listened to, I've already took the idea of the pull-up banner that you spoke about earlier. Yeah. So on our pull-up banners, we've took your idea of the poses. We've took Ian's idea of having a picture of the photographer and some bits and pieces. But then we've also added our own idea of adding a mirror into it as well. So nice. The children can check their hair and their collars and their ties and stuff. Yeah. And that's just a mirror that's flexible.
On a light stand, yeah.
No, it's flexible and it's stuck to the banner.
Oh, okay.
It rolls round. Can't be broke.
Yeah, brilliant.
So actually, this type of stuff is fantastic for ideas.
Yeah, really. I love that. That's a great show. And I think that us not being ashamed to share ideas and being humble enough to go, do you know what? I love it. And actually being prepared to go, this is what I'm doing and it works well, take it or leave it. But we want to see everyone do well in the industry. I want to see the whole industry continue to boom. I think a few of us probably at some point a few years ago when all the really good iPhones came out and you see all the Facebook on the 2nd of September completely full of stuff of my day, Littleton's first day at school. That was a time that a few of us probably looked and went, oh, Jesus Christ, is this the problem? Is this going to be a problem? I don't think it has been, because I think the industry has moved on with some other stuff to make that work. But yeah, being able to speak to people that not even necessarily that are further down the road, but that are on the same journey. Yeah. There's success leaves clues. We can all look at the biggest companies in the country, and if we were to, hopefully we will get a few of them guys on, but if we were to sit and speak to them about the journey that they've been on, a lot of the feelings, and I think a lot of the difficulties, a lot of the stresses, a lot of the, imposter syndrome that might pop in every now and again, or the, can I do that? Should I do that? We're not alone in feeling that, I don't think.
Yeah, I think people are quite happy to talk about success, and like these podcasts, they're all about success, which is fantastic. In my opinion, people need to talk more about the failures, because failure that is where you learn to be successful. And I'm sure you've had things that haven't worked. We certainly have things that haven't worked, but you adapt and you learn from that, and that's what makes you become successful.
Yeah, 100%. And I'd agree that there are sometimes when we try and do too much, that's occasionally been a way that we've gone, oh, actually, we've overcomplicated that. We probably didn't need to even go there. We might look at the contemporary style class groups and try and work out a way, oh, should we add props in? I've seen someone doing props. Do we need to add props in? And they just completely screwed the day. And you're like, I've got all this pressure on photographers saying, bring a guitar and bring this and the other. It's just, it doesn't improve the sales, doesn't improve the service, it doesn't improve the actual day and how the day runs.
Yeah.
All we were trying to do was look at something else and go, oh, have we missed out a trick on that? But without having a conversation with the people that come up with it and saying, was that great for you?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that is the same for parents as well, and families. It's great when the sales are coming in, but if you look, on our Flex Schools dashboard, we can see how many people have ordered, how many people haven't logged in, and how many people have logged in but not placed an order. So I'm interested in those latter ones. Why have they logged in and not placed an order? So on our customer journey, after a month, we're then talking to them and saying, come on, why haven't you purchased? What can we do better to enable you to do that? Is it price? Is it pack? Is it background? Posing choice? Whatever. And actually what that does is enables us to shape the business moving forward. So
based on real-time data.
Yeah, because at the point of them looking at the photo and not purchasing, we've failed somewhere along the way. We've failed to have something that's appealing to them, or their posing is not right, or their child's messy. It could be anything. That's what we need to unpick, because if we can grow our turnover as a business from the opportunities that we have currently, then it makes the growth of the business easier, because we don't have to go and run around getting 50 new schools a year. If we can increase our
growth,
another
15% on each job that you're on.
Yeah, and that's, I think sometimes when I talk to other people, they focus on growing the business by growing schools rather than growing the turnover from the opportunities that they have.
Absolutely agree. That section of people that have viewed but not ordered, the ones that haven't viewed, it's quite difficult. We use a proof card system. We use GotPhoto. We use the proof card system. So we don't currently use pre-registration. Tried it a couple of times without huge success, but
that's, sorry to interrupt. That's interesting, because we're just looking at that. So grateful to spend an hour or so with Harry earlier in the week and NetLife talking about sort of their system and that type of stuff. Certainly about the pre-registration side. It's certainly something that we were thinking to implement later on this year, but it's interesting to hear that it's not been as successful as maybe you thought it would be.
Well, we haven't. So I think that it was probably on our translation of what schools needed to do and what we needed from parents first. So I think that when we go back to readdress that, if I were to look closer at how do we explain the message about what we want them to do. So it was a local, one of the ones we done was a local school to us here. And I know some people that go to the school, and we'd set up pre-registration. And on the Sunday evening, someone put something in a WhatsApp class group saying, have you all registered for your pictures? If not, they won't be taken. So our Facebook page and email that Sunday night completely blew up with parents saying, I definitely want my children's pictures done. I haven't registered. And it created a negative feeling before we even got there.
Yeah.
That has to come down to the messaging not being crystal clear. I mean, it might come down to a stray parent creating something that wasn't.
Yeah.
But if we leave the door open for that, similar to what you say earlier, we've left a gap. We failed a little bit there in not explaining what it was. So although we don't do pre-registration, we'll generally see 85% login rate based on QR codes going home. We've dressed up the QR codes as a certificate. So the back of it is a certificate. It's A5, fairly thick cardboard. Congratulations, you've had a great photo day today. Thanks for smiling. Please tell your parent or tell your family to send it over. Then the login details are on the back. Them going home with a certificate rather than an order form definitely has helped.
Yeah.
And what we then do is for the spring and summer term, we recycle the data that we've got from them 85% of parents. So some clever Excel work, some data merging, and some syncing up admission numbers and email addresses allows us to kind of bypass the pre-registration from the parent and utilize what they've already given us in the first place.
Yeah.
That's worked really well, unless someone in the first place is photographed on the wrong name.
Yeah.
There is a bit of a risk in that you have to be so confident that your data is accurate. So 3 years ago, one of the first ones we've done this one on, there was a child with the same name, same first name, same surname, photographed on the wrong cards. Parent then gets an email in summer term, and it was the wrong child that went.
Yeah.
Now, it happens.
Yeah.
It can happen. So we then stopped doing that for a year, and we really tightened up our process of making sure that everything is completely right. So when we do the QR codes we photograph now, we'll hold the QR code up and have the child behind. So we're holding it up and we can see the QR code and the child so that we know that that's exactly the form that child gave us. So if it does go wrong, we can easily work out, we can see exactly where it's gone wrong. That was handed to us at that point.
Yeah.
We're never going to put the blame on anyone. We're never going to go back and say, well, the school gave this child this form, so it's not our fault. That's not what it's about. But what it is us being able to give the parent a definite reason why they've seen the wrong image.
Yeah.
And I think we might have had 2 or 3 last term from 80,000 kids. So it's not a big problem. But when the parent, we're still in the realms of children's photographs, internet.
Yeah.
We have to take that seriously, and we have to make sure that we're mitigating everything that we can to stop any problems coming from it.
Yeah, definitely. It is important.
But I think with the pre-registration, when it's working, I don't think it can be argued with about the efficiency of it. We just didn't get it right on the first few times we tried it. So we've found a workaround, as we do. That's what happens.
Yeah.
But I'm certainly not, I would never say pre-registration doesn't work. I think that we just didn't get it right. And if we can get it right, and we can bypass, or not even bypass the proof card going home, the form going home, but we can add to that.
Yeah.
So that the parent gets that email and they get the notification. Do you do text messaging?
Yes. So Flex is built up for communication via text and email, which is fantastic. We have sort of set points, sort of certainly in the autumn term. For instance, our workflow, a school is shot on a Monday, for instance. So 2 photographers out on a Monday. Once they've finished, they edit their own work. So when I say edit, I mean sort of go through the...
Not used.
Yeah, go through the folders, get rid of anything that's eyes closed or rubbish. So we're just left with print-ready images. They will then colour correct the images and send them over to us on Monday evening. So we're quite tight on that. So Monday evening comes, I'm the guy that's sitting up till midnight to import all the work.
Yeah.
But what that does do is Tuesday morning, when the guys come into the office, like the ladies in the office, they will then check the work. So make sure everybody's allocated to the correct name and then set the job live. So they'll set it up, set it live. So 11 o'clock every morning is when they go out, or the text messages and the emails. And the reason why we do that is, when you think about it, people in a workplace, what time do they have their break? Between 10:30 and 11. So that's what we're targeting. We're targeting those people that get a message and they'll act on it straight away, rather than doing it at 3 o'clock when people are on the school run or something like that. And they oh yeah, I'll deal with that later. And then they forget.
This stuff that you're talking about here is so underrated and so underappreciated, I think, from the amount of people that I've spoke to that don't even consider the time of day. You know, I've got 3 kids, probably similar to yourself, 3 kids, a wife at home. We try and send ours out in the evenings at about 8:30. So we try and set ours to go out about 8:30, 8:45, because that's when mum finally gets to sit down, and we want to be at the top rather than ASOS and Facebook and Instagram and the other bits. But similar mindset of going, well, when are the logins? When are we seeing people that can take action? When do we see the most amount of orders? The technology that we've all got now, whatever system we're using, it's there to give us that data and tell us how to market our business, isn't it?
Yeah. And the same when we send out our reminders. So shoot that goes ahead on the Monday goes live on the Tuesday. They will then get a reminder on Sunday afternoon at 6 p.m. because that's when we know they've had their Sunday dinner and all they're doing is sitting in front of the TV. And that's when we get the most hits or most reaction from the text messages and the emails that go out. And it's important because what we want to do, as I said at the start, we want people to react straight away. We don't want them to, I'll do that later, because then they forget. Everybody's busy. So the more that we can do, or the more reaction that we can get when we send it out, the better for the business.
Yeah, fully agree. But I think it's important that we talk about that, because if people don't talk about that stuff and people don't explain the thought process behind it, I mean, part of our multi-pose option, the reason we did multi-pose initially was for the decision-making process for parents to be, which do I prefer, rather than do I like it, yes or no?
Yeah.
Because instantly you've got that, oh, actually, I'd like that one more, it starts a conversation, as opposed to, I don't like it, put it in the bin, forget about it, because that sale's dead at that point.
Yeah.
But timing of communications is also so vital that maybe unless it's spoke about, people don't even necessarily think about it, because why would you? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd like to think you would.
But for us, it was just about trial and error. Let's try it at this time. Okay, see how that goes this week. No, we'll change it. Let's try it at this time. But it's having those people around you to bounce the ideas off. And as I say, I'm quite lucky. We've sort of got a management team, the 2 other guys that I can bounce ideas off, and they bring ideas to me. The girls in the office, they're great. Our sales manager, she's fantastic. We can bounce ideas off each other and say, oh, do we think this will work? No. Well, this is the reason we don't think it'll work, and vice versa. And that is for everything across the business.
And not being afraid to try it as well is that I've had some of our best ideas have come from the girls in the office that might be 22, 23 years old, because they've got a completely different view and a different opinion and different understanding of the world to what I have as 40-odd-year-old bloke. You know, we've stuck in our ways and we've done what we think works. But I think that's where the industry is evolving a little bit quicker now than maybe it ever has, is that we can't tell the guys that are at the top of their game running these massive, great big school photography businesses that they're wrong, because they've all done fantastic work. But I think the growth of what they built was in a different time of cash sales, proof sales, sale or return. It was in a different time to what we're necessarily in trying to navigate now.
Yeah. Yeah, we've got to provide now. We have to provide something that's going to catch the eye. What's going to be different to taking it on an iPhone or whatever phone they're using? That's our competition now. How can we pull on the parents' heartstrings and say, well, you can't recreate this, so you need to buy it from us? Is a very
It goes full circle, doesn't it? It goes full circle back to the experience.
yeah.
That when the kid goes home and says, Andy Malloy, who was talking about pouring the water on his head, he was on the podcast episode 2, that he creates that experience for the kids that they look forward to and that they go home. And that's the moment. That's the moment that is within that photograph, was the child at school having a positive experience and great fun. And as parents, that's all we ever want, isn't it? I mean, all you want is for the teacher to come out and go, she's had a great day.
Yeah.
Because for me, that's everything. If that's documented in a photograph, without going too deep on it, I mean, that is what we're doing, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. You want to see a picture of your child smiling and happy with that natural look on their face rather than a scared or forced smile.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you do some sports stuff as well, do you? Or not? Do you do sports stuff as well?
I
so
guess.
Aston Villa, he's every week, isn't he?
Yeah, I support the Villa, which they're doing all right this year in the Champions League. So enjoyed that.
About it.
You get over to Dortmund in the next round.
Love it.
Go and see them away. But so again, it's about diversity and filling in the gaps, as I mentioned right at the start. Although I'm a photographer, always been a photographer, running a business of this size, you don't always get the chance to go out and actually take photographs anymore. I probably go out a dozen times a year, really, as a maximum, it is what it is, I guess. I've got some schools that have been with me since Fotek days. So one school in particular has been working with me for 17 years. So that is fantastic commitment from a school.
That's a difficult one to hand over to another photographer, isn't it?
Yeah.
As soon as David's not there, there's trouble.
Yeah, so that's one of the schools that I go out to. I've got another trust of schools, about 8 or so in that trust, that I go out to those as well. Not necessarily to photograph, but make sure I'm there, showing my face, talking to them. But yeah, so in the quieter times, I do a bit of like sports photography, or we as a business work with a few different football clubs. So we do things like shirt framing, imagery, like marketing imagery for them and that type of stuff. And I'm quite lucky. I get to sit on the side of a pitch and actually be a photographer and take photographs of games and stuff. And I'm lucky to do that for a couple of the Midlands teams. But diversity or diversifying in this industry is key because, as everybody knows, it's very seasonal. It's not all year round. So what else can we do to bring stuff in, bring money in? And that sort of led me to right the way to the other end of the scale from schools, and that's the funerals market.
Yes, this is a new one, isn't it?
Yeah, so we have now what's called the funeral print shop, and basically what that is sort of templated orders of service for funerals. So we work with a couple of funeral directors who between them do just over 1,000 funerals a year. So on your average order of service of 40 a funeral, that brings in some income to the business the whole year round.
Yeah. It takes the seasonality out.
Yeah. So what we've done, we don't design them in-house. We've built some software. We've put 100 templates in there. So they do all the work. Yeah. I.e. pick the template, add the image, add the text, and then just hit order. And it comes through to our account within Duns, and it's all printed and they ship it all. So it's quite passive.
Fantastic. Yeah. Yeah, love that. I was talking to someone recently. It's not quite the same as the funeral thing, but the templated products type thing. And they were talking about like the tea towels and the mugs and that side of things that all go into schools at Christmas time. Their slip goes in and they pay it, and a bit go to the PTA. And someone was saying, well, why are we not looking at trying to build something along them lines? And that's on a similar thing to what you're saying about the funeral side of it, is that there's so many different opportunities out there that if we can get out of our own way a little bit, all of a sudden there is something to be found and something to be had.
Yeah, again, I mean, we have done that. So Duns have got the facilities to do the tea towels and the mugs and all that type of stuff that parents love.
Right.
but we found it to be very seasonal again. So we did it with a couple of schools, and yeah, it was fantastic. But actually what it did at Christmas was interrupt our buying pattern of portraits. So we thought, well, okay, it's worked, but we need to find something that's not in this industry to see us through the 12 months.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I like that a lot. We so we do a little bit of grassroots sport. Do you do any grassroots stuff or not? Or is it
I have
mainly the big
I've
clubs?
done personally for other photographers over the years, but we don't
Yeah.
do anything.
Yeah, I spoke to a couple of people and they do tournaments, football tournaments. So your youth football tournaments, so go and take pictures of the game and DE photo type style thing.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of people that tell me that they're having unreal weekends. But we've been trying this for a long time, and I like to try and think we can find a solution. And I just haven't been able to find a way to get the workflow right and get the sales worth spending the time and not being home with the family at the weekend to make that count. We do have great success with cup finals. So we've got a couple of youth leagues that we work with, and they'll have 30 to 40 cup finals for the youth, different ages.
Yeah.
And when we go and do the cup finals, we'll photograph the players and the team before the game. We'll then extract it and have them all printed on a stadium type background by half time.
Yeah.
So they're all printed, ready to go. It's 15 quid for the player or 20 quid including the team. And we will sell 98% of them at half time. Absolutely sell out every single time we do it. That's a different story because we know what we're going to get. We'll take the truck. We'll make a bit of a branded thing of it. And off the back of that lends us into then doing portraits for clubs and also some school stuff as well, because inevitably there's PE teachers there, there's head teachers there, other influential schools people. But that does need a handful of people that are brilliant at speaking and selling and just having the conversation with, we'll hustle. If there's 4 or 5 that haven't brought it, we'll make a big thing. Oh, who doesn't love their kid? Come on, can you tell this parent, come over and have a look at it? And, it's a bit of tongue in cheek, but commercially, we want to sell it. We don't want to take them home. We don't want to shred it. We want to sell it for the money and hopefully it goes on. But yeah, trying to find other ways. We launched a studio 2 years ago when we moved premises. We built a studio and we had all these ideas of grandeur. We're going to have amazing artwork. Went down to, have you met Charlie from Click Backdrops? And no, so a guy called Charlie runs Click Backdrops and they've got a studio in Watford. So we went down there and their studio's stunning. You've got massive, great big artwork along the walls and you walk in and just go, wow, this is elite. We kind of thought, actually, we can do that in the downtime. We can offer studio portraits and we can utilize the school photography to fill the studio and it would work. But the only way for us to do that was to be there evenings or weekends. And there's only so much that we can do. There's only so much that I can ask the photographers to do. And I think that problem would have been solved with a full-time studio manager and someone that's a photographer and that's their role. But it's just not been something that I've wanted to go down the road of in case that studio manager's ill and one of us then has to cover a Saturday and a Sunday full of bookings. And being able to book the school's work is so much more predictable and so much more scalable because we know we've all got our own numbers, whatever they may be. They're probably not a million miles apart, that a school is going to be worth X amount. You get this many heads, it's going to return you that amount over the course of the year. We can build and grow on that. Whereas the studio is so touch and go. But yeah, we're trying to find as many ways as we all can, I think. But the funeral thing's brilliant and finding other ways to utilize the skills and the team you've got.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's not just about what you do or who you're working with. So like the funeral stuff, that idea started from, we can go and design some order of service templates and see how we get on. But that sort of then quickly evolved into doing marketing shots for them, which then evolved into designing their brochures. And then they brought new branches. So we went from doing 2 brochures for them to 6 brochures. So all that income over time is at a time in the business where we're quiet. And the same with the shirt framing for football clubs and that type of stuff. That drip feeds all year round. And as you get into knowing football clubs and working with them, they then get fans coming to them saying, "Oh, do you know who frames your shirts? Oh, go and see these guys. I'll do it for you." So
Just building that network, isn't it? It's just building that bigger network of
yeah,
people that can recommend services that you do and things that you offer.
yeah. So and don't get me wrong, it's not me in the middle doing all this stuff. I'm really the middle guy.
Just pulling stuff in.
Yeah, these
Yeah.
guys can go and do that, make the frames for us or whatever, put the shirts together, but it's branded under what we want it to be rather than, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that with the beauty of the funeral type thing as well is that with some really strong Google ads and Facebook marketing and some strong PPC advertising, that can easily go national as opposed to just being what we do as school photography. We have to have a bum on a seat in a location to generate that ongoing income. Whereas being able to create something that doesn't depend on someone being there. A few people have sort of spoke about, can we let parents upload their own photographs and can we print their photographs for them? Which is, on the face of it, you try and say, well, how am I going to compete with Photobox doing 6p prints or the freeprints.com where they do 500 6x4s every month or something along them lines? But there is that convenience element. And
Yeah.
there is that, we haven't really tried it. We haven't pushed it. The system we use doesn't allow for that at the moment. But is that something that could add another 10 quid onto an order?
Yeah. I mean,
Maybe.
one thing that we spoke about was similar to that, upload your own. So if a parent buys a digital image, for instance, from us, within the email of the image, they get a code saying, use our website to print your images. So actually then it keeps the,
Keeps it in your infrastructure. Yeah.
so they might buy the digital, but then they're also going to buy a print from us for a little bit cheaper, I guess, than a pack of photos or whatever. But actually what it does do, it just saves them going elsewhere to spend money when they could spend it with us and get the same product.
Yeah. I was talking to someone recently and she said that when they sell a digital print or when they sell a digital image, they automatically send a 6x4 print to that parent as well. The parent doesn't necessarily know they're going to get it, but they get a 6x4 print as a thank you for doing their digital download, which what that does is completely eradicates any complaints about quality of the image.
Yeah.
Because they've said, this is what it looks like when it's printed professionally. When you do it off of your Xerox photocopier, it's not going to look the same.
Yeah.
Which I thought was quite a good idea. I mean, they were high-priced digitals and it was a slightly different end of the market. But just as that little added value, as well as saying, this is what it should look like,
Yeah.
made quite a lot of sense.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that I took from the school photo conference was Magnus, the guy from Sweden, who sort of give us a video or demonstration of his workflow and about printing off the A4 sheets of photographic paper and having the parents make up their own sort of panels, I guess, of images. So that's something that obviously is not happening in the UK, but I think it could revolutionise the UK completely.
Yeah. Yeah, there are a few big things out there at the moment, sort of bubbling under the surface that could potentially make a real big change and benefit all of us,
Yeah.
and hopefully long may that continue. And the more people that come in with some ideas and create things that can change the way that we're doing it, the better. I think it's ultimately the way that we all want a bit of longevity, don't we? We all want to see this through for another 20 years, 15, 20 years and pass it to the kids or get it sold.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've got 20 years before I can retire at 55, so I'm not clever enough to do anything else, so I've got to see it through.
Just keep hammering through it. Smile, look at me. Listen, David, I think we could probably go on for another 2 hours, to be honest, and maybe we'll do another episode further down the road when, I think we've both got some developments going on and lots that we're working on. David, it's been a pleasure.
Thank
you so much. Good luck. Enjoy it. And keep doing the great stuff you're working on, mate.
Thanks
so much for sharing what you did today as well. I mean, we've both gone quite deep, I think, into there, and hopefully there's a lot of value for everyone in that. So, great job, mate.
Perfect. Thank you for your time.
Look after yourself. See you soon, David. Take care.
Thank you, David, for a great chat and sharing so much. I love your idea of the golden ticket. That is so kind. Please be sure to like and subscribe to the School Photo Podcast. Happy days!